Okay, before we get to terminology, I'd like to say just a little bit about skin, and then another video will be here about wound healing. This one, though, is only 3 sides and very basic, so let's get started. Bef let's look at this nice drawing from the National Pressure Ulcer Advisory Panel, NPUAP. It's from their website, used with permission. We will quickly go over the anatomy of the skin and the pressure ulcer stages. The first layer of skin, what it is that you see on your body, is the epidermis, which is actually made up of layers in itself, but we don't need to go into that. The epidermis is avascular. It has no circulation of its own. You can see the waviness at the bottom of the epidermis in this picture where it dips down into the dermis where the vascularization is. And look for a minute at this rendering. Notice here that the epidermal cells go down into the dermis where they surround the hair shaft. That is why when a stage 2 pressure ulcer is resurfacing, little islands of epithelial cells seem to appear from nowhere as islands of whitish cells in the middle of the wound surface. Now you know, they don't come from nowhere. So back to the NPUAP picture. Both the epidermis, below the epidermis is the dermis, and then there's the subcutaneous tissue, and below that is muscle and bone. Stage 2 pressure ulcers are partial thickness wounds, meaning they don't extend deeper than the dermis. Once you get into the subcutaneous tissue, it is a full thickness wound. Stage 3s into the subcutaneous tissue, and stage 4s into muscle or bone. If you can understand the difference between partial thickness wounds, stage 2, and full thickness wounds, stage 3s and 4s, you will understand why OASIS treats them so differently. Basically, when a partial thickness wound heals, it becomes as it was before the injury. When a full thickness wound heals, it is not the same as it was before the injury, and it never will be. The structures below the dermis won't become what they were. The space will fill in with granulation tissue. That is why stage 3s and 4s, for the purposes of OASIS, can be considered closed but never healed.